This is CG Ruthless Sports. I will be brutally honest. Ain't nothing but being brutally honest. Coming at you with another video. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome Jonnydel's Football Academy. What's up, man?
Hey, man, not much. How are you doing? It's a pleasure to be on your show.
For sure, man. Tell everybody where they can find you on social media platform.
So you can find me on Twitter at Jonnydels. That's Jonnydel with no H. It's a common misconception. Also on YouTube at Jonnydel's Football Academy. That's where most of my content, about 99% of what I put out, will be on YouTube. You can find some now audio episodes on Spotify at Jonnydel's Football Academy. If you would like to hear, I'm doing some new shows during the week at the end of the week of more audio only podcast style, not the breakdowns like I normally do.
Yeah, when I check out most of your content, it's a lot of breakdowns, but lately I've seen you work with my boy, John Chapman, the GOAT of the Niners podcast, man. That is awesome to work with this guy, man.
Yeah, John's been super awesome. I reached out to him a couple weeks ago. I was like, hey, do you want to do a little back and forth collaboration? I'll go on your show, you come on mine. And he was really warm and inviting and was just really fun to work with.
Yeah, I really enjoy this guy. Like every other year, he'll put me on the show or I'll go on his. It's like this guy knows what he talks about. And it's like, it's a blessing. Just from when I first had him on my show, I was like, man, this is a guy I used to watch when he first started. And I wasn't quite a content creator back then, but this guy's like the breath of fresh air when you talk football with this guy.
Oh, yeah. Really level-headed analysis. Smart, like you said, smart, comes from a really football educated background. And he's not going to be a clickbait guy. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. He's not just trying to drive traffic or something.
Yeah, that's how some content creators, man. But when I look at a lot of guys who do exactly the same as John Chapman and everybody else, but we all do something differently, your breakdowns are just interesting also. I mean, you do have some good perspective. I like what I've seen out of your videos, and I've checked out a lot of the breakdowns. But when you look into the previous game against the 49ers and Bears, what came away the positive side of the game that you can look into week 2?
Positive side of the game was seeing how Kyle is able to use Trey Lance in the run game to get some more favorable looks and to also really play 11-on-11 football. In years past in Kyle's offense, ever since he left Washington with RG3, the running game has generally been 10-on-11 because the quarterback is not involved in that run game. Now, he's used some of those ideas before, like 2019, we would throw some like zone read looks in with Jimmy G, and there were some plays it did work. We would do it where we'd leave like a defensive tackle unblocked, and he would have to account for the quarter thing, and we would run some of that, but it wasn't like you could do a heavy dose of Jimmy G, right? Like nobody was going to be worried about him taking it around the edge and doing anything. Now you're seeing a lot of that baked into the run game, so that defenses have to account for the quarterback in the run game, and that just leaves one less guy to be able to play the running back or Debo as a wide back role, or the wide receiver screens, the sweeps, and all that kind of thing. So you see the potential for a very explosive and expansive run game. A run game that was already one of the most diverse run games in the NFL now has the ability to be even more diverse. And the amount of strain as far as horizontally that will put on a defense in the run game is really tough. And what that means is that safeties, middle safeties, so we play against a lot of middle safety defenses, that middle safeties are going to have to start accounting for things in the run game, which then opens up explosives down the field because of now the extra strain you've put. Chicago was not a great example of all that because we were missing just execution at a number of levels. But overall, that's a positive thing going forward. You see what the offense, the sparks of what the offense could be as a fire going forward.
Yeah, the running game, like the fact, like you said it best, because Trey's very mobile, he can move, and it makes defense guess more. We got to see a lot of that when he ran it 13 times, and there were some plays on those third downs. 8 out of 13, what is it? 8 out of 17 on third down conversion or something like that.
Yeah.
And it was mostly him moving or throwing the ball, one or the other.
Oh yeah. There's definitely it's hard after a loss where you only scored 10 points to say, there's a ton of positives, but there really are. It's deflating as fans when you've had all of this expectation for now a year and a half of a sky high offense with Trey Lance, and it scores 10 points. Well, it's in a monsoon for one, and two, there's going to be some bumps in the road as the team figures out exactly what this offense is going to look like and what Kyle figures out as a rhythm for how defenses will play now some of these new looks.
Yeah, it is because we're going to be able to figure out some new plays under the playbook with running the ball. We're going to figure out different ways to create the play action more because with Jimmy, there was no way to create that because it was limited. But like you say, yeah, there's a lot to come away positive. But when you look at the side of the game, what was the one negative side of the game that we had to fix coming into week 2? I mean, there's got to at least be one side that we got to fix the most.
Sloppy execution. I mean, I know that sounds really cliche. When people say, "Well, we just got to execute." Well, it really is. There wasn't anywhere where I looked at the film and said, "Okay, the Bears are a better team." I don't think many people across the league would ever, look at the Bears roster and our roster and say, "Yeah, the Bears are a better team," or even that we got outplayed. But the score is what it was. What it was. But it was just so much little execute, so many small execution errors. It would be one play be Burford, one play be Banks, one play be Trent Williams, one play it would be Mike McGlinchey, one play it would be Lance, one play it would be Juwan Jennings, one play it would be Elijah Mitchell or Jeff Wilson. It was never one guy. It was never one guy over and over and over again. It was just a mistake here, a mistake there, and when you start stacking those and staggering those plays are stacking up as a team, and it comes down to each guy has got to do their job and execute and stay locked in throughout the whole game. You can't have McGlinchey fail on this play and now you got to punt, and then the next series Burford fails on this play. Well, now you're second and long, and now you're putting your quarterback in a tough position. And then, it's just on down the line. You have to stay locked in and execute the whole way.
Yeah, you're right about it. Like it had to do with the collective of the team, but like when you look at the mistakes that what we did, it was a lot of the penalties that played a factor also because realistically the Bears offense wasn't really doing much against us. Like if we were to be honest, Justin Fields only had 121 yards passing, a touchdown and a pick. That doesn't put up staggering numbers right there. You look at the running game, Montgomery didn't do squat. We stopped them. And despite the Herbert guy, he was limited as a carry. So I guess you can say it is what it is with the running play. But when you come away with this game, we gave up one busted coverage play to Dante Pettis. That was only the one negative side of the game I look at. But other than that, it was the penalties that pretty much gave the Bears hope when we should have just kept them shut up. The entire game, we were playing good defense. It's just those boneheaded decisions by our defense. Like Dre Greenlaw was undisciplined. I don't know what he was thinking. Like he was just not in the right mindset from when he was playing. And then he gave up a coverage play right there, which was bogus right there.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And like you said, yeah, there's mistakes on defense, and I mean, I have a hard time blaming the defense, even with all their mistakes, with the penalties and everything. Yeah, that absolutely was a factor. On the other side, 10 points for a Shanahan offense is just not acceptable, and that's not on Trey Lance. I'm don't so it's not think people think that I'm going to say that's on Trey Lance because some of that has been made. We've seen some reports of people pointing out the 10 points and how few games have. Had that kind of a result. It's when your offense overall does not execute, it puts your defense in bad positions. Now the defense can't just give up and give up on a drive, from penalties, but your offense has to help your defense out when they're dominating a game like that, and we're getting the field position that we were every game. You can't have a fumble on when you're moving the ball. You can't have missed blocks. You can't have all of these opportunities wasted on offense. I mean, when you look at the starting field position in the first half of that game, we should have been up like 24-0, but we weren't. And that comes down to all the little execution errors along the way.
Yeah, those executions were like terrible. Like when Debo was in good field position, he fumbled the ball. That's what put this game out of there. And then there was a couple pass plays that could have been in our favor. Trey Lance, if he would have just completed the pass to Tyler Croft, that was easily a touchdown right there. That play alone was pretty much like, dude, we had a chance to have a lead. We had a chance to increase the lead. Like it could have went from 10 to 17-0. Or if we would have executed the right way, it would have been more that way. Like the way you said it's true. We would have had a 24-0 lead, but it was just those poor executions. And when you come away with looking at the team we play, it's kind of been bad history between this team. But when you look at the last game, I don't know if you saw the Monday Night Football game. What do you look from the positive side of their game, and then you look in between the negative of what we can expose on?
So the positive side, I mean, if we're looking at it as from a 49ers perspective, was that the Seahawks should not have won that game. I mean, of course, we've been saying that about a lot of their games for the past 10 years, right? And a lot of times we were attributing that to just Russell Wilson. It just seems like Pete Carroll has sold his soul to a voodoo devil or something. But they seem to just always pull some crazy wins out of their rear end. But when you're looking at that and going, yeah, they had a very efficient passing game and had some big plays in the first half of that game. You look at the Seahawks offense the second half of that game, and it wasn't anything. I mean, there was no real explosive offense. There was no real steady offense that they had in the second half of that game. I think Geno Smith had like 60 yards passing in the second half. What you see is the Broncos played a really sloppy game, and you can't fumble the ball twice down near the goal line and expect to win. You just can't do that. Those are the mistakes that bad teams make. And so I don't see it as the Seahawks beat a really good team. They beat a talented team who played really bad. And of course I'm a 49ers fan and I'm biased and I hate the Seahawks. But I'm not looking at that team and saying, "Oh wow, this is a monster that we're going to have to overcome." In the end, even with all the mistakes that Denver made, it wasn't like Seattle put up a whole bunch of points on him. It wasn't like they shut him down every time. You were seeing big mistakes from Denver. So I look at a team and I say, this is a very beatable team. I mean, Seattle has been perceived that way even since before the season. They're not expected to be a team that's going to get in the playoffs. I mean, and we need to then take care of business as we should against this team. So, this is one that as something that I would like to see us exploit is they don't have an overly great defensive line. So I would like to see us run the ball. Now their middle linebacker was flashing a lot during the game. The guy that's taken over for Wagner. So, we need to be able to contain him or attack him in ways that will force him into indecision. But I'm not looking at their corners and saying, these are guys who are going to be shut down guys. We should be able to get some plays on them. We should be able to go after the edges and do really well there. And then on defense, the big thing will be containing those explosive receivers they have and that speed. If you can force them to take the efficient throws and the efficient offense, I don't see them overmatching our defensive line. So that will be the keys: is controlling the line of scrimmage on both sides of the field, limiting the explosive plays, taking what they're going to give you, and really executing a misdirection run game to its fullest.
Oh yeah, when we look at that game, nobody even picked Seattle to win this game. 99% of them were going with Denver because they expected this to be a Denver dominant fashion win for Russell to have revenge on, but this wasn't the case. The mistakes is what really cost Denver, but it kind of reminds us the way we played against the Bears, but hopefully this time around we're well disciplined and we're ready for this one. Like when I look at the performance from Geno Smith, I mean, he did his part, he did his job, but at the end of the day, there was some weakness that we can definitely expose. Like especially that Seahawks offensive line, it's very young and inexperienced. So we might be able to have a guy like Bosa and the rest of those defensive line to create that pressure towards Geno because in the first half of the game, Geno was not getting enough pressure. He was having a pretty solid game right there. And then second half, he got little pressure here and there, but it wasn't as effective to where he threw a pick here and there. No, it was more like he got sacked 2 times. That's it. He just like I can see this as a different game. I see this as more like Geno's gonna lose the ball or at least like cause a turnover here and there. But the problem with the Niners defense is we're going to have our hands full with these two receivers. You got Tyler Lockett, who didn't have much of a performance, but he might surprise people this week. DK Metcalf, he's just that one guy that everybody wants to target. Yeah. And it is what it is, man. Like when you look at the way we're playing, like I like what we've seen from Travarius Ward. I think he matched up pretty well with Metcalf. Lockett would just need to match up with Mosley and everybody else. So, like, I feel like this is a must win for us, and this has got to be a game. This is a game that's perfect for Trey to win this game.
It is, and it's a good opportunity to silence a lot of the noise that is out there. Winning is always a good deodorant.
Hell yeah, it is because it cures everything. It takes off the media's bash on it. But it's been going on with Trey, and I get it. It's his first year becoming a full-time starter, and he's got 3 games under his belt as an experience. But man, it's like anytime Trey does something, the media's already throwing him out there. We seen him going to a strip club, right? It's like
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it. Like, I guess he can't have fun, I guess, according to them. Ooh, he can't have fun. Well, Jimmy did the same thing, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
But okay. So let's say if hypothetically, like, let's say if it comes down to it, like if we start off in a terrible start, does this have to come to a point to where we definitely need to pull the kid aside and just go with Jimmy, or do you feel like we need to go all the way with Trey and go through the process?
It's tough to get into a lot of hypotheticals and it's like cross that bridge when you get there. But my opinion, now I'm come from a guy that full disclosure, I really like Jimmy Garoppolo. I was higher on him than a lot of people were as fan bases. I wasn't as high on him as some people were. I mean, there's been some people who, in their eyes, he is Tom Brady part 2. But there was a lot of things I think he does really well. That being said, Trey is the guy going forward. And to me, you put Jimmy back in there. That's going to be a really tough situation to navigate. Even, I've heard what if we're 1-4 and you get the veterans who are saying, why are we even do this? Are you going to lose the locker room if you don't put Jimmy in there and they want to win now? I think you have to ride Trey out the rest of the year, no matter what, barring injury. To me, you don't put Jimmy back in there. Even if Trey is just bombing it, you have hitched your horse to him, and you're gonna have to ride it out. Like that's your option, because say you're 2-6 and you put Jimmy in there and then you miss the playoffs by 1 game. Well, what did you gain? All you did was cost Trey reps to learn. And now what do you do for next year? Do you try and re-sign Jimmy and do a quarterback competition? Well, is Jimmy going to even want to be open to that when he's going to uh when he's going to be on the open market to get a starter's contract? Is he going, and teams don't have to trade for him? Is he going to even want to be in a competition with somewhere? Where you say, no, I'm a starter in this league and I'm going to go somewhere? Well, now how much do you have to pay Jimmy to come back? And then if he doesn't come back because you don't want to pay him as a starter because you've invested all this in Trey Lance, well, now what situation does that create on the team? Okay, now it says, well, we're only keeping Trey because he's the first round pick and he's done all of these things, or we've invested so much in him, and now you really have lost the locker room. So to me, I don't see a positive situation for the organization if you end up saying we're going to go back to Jimmy. I just don't see a good result in this. The only way that happens is if he's bombing or something, and you pull that plug early and miraculously you make a huge playoff run, you get and you win the Super Bowl, which, we've seen it with Jimmy. It's tough to do that. Okay. Now it may happen, stranger things have happened before, but I just don't see that as the result. And now, what did you gain from it? You didn't gain anything. You need to, whether or not Trey's sink or swim, he's your guy, and you are going to have to commit. And I think that's where their mindset is, as the coaching staff and as the front office, is that this is our guy. We're writing this out. It's either going to be sink or swim. And so, to me, we're 1-4. Yeah, you're still playing Trey. Well, do I enjoy that as a fan, as losing? No, but that's going to be just what it is. Now, will the fan base be okay with that? Absolutely not. But I guess, Bryant, to your thing here, no, I am expecting to make the playoffs. This is the situation of, do you need to bring Jimmy in if something's happening with Trey?
It's an if scenario.
It's a big if. So personally, I don't see us getting to that point. Hopefully, you'd hope it isn't, but that's the only situation I think you're in where you would even consider that. And then looking at the plus minus of it, I don't see the positive.
Yeah, you know what? I agree with this. This is what I've been trying to say with this entire Niners content creator and those others. They think differently, and then some other people think a little bit off. Like I'm saying, like, what's the purpose? You invested this kid to be your guy, so you're gonna have to ride with this kid. And if it is a lost season, oh well. You got to give this kid experience. Aaron Rodgers didn't become a winning quarterback overnight. He had to get the starting experience, and he started off the season. His first year as a starter, he was 6-10. 2008. Let that sink in. Josh Allen, it took him a couple of years to elevate. Let that sink in. You got to be patient with this guy. So you're not going to expect Trey Lance to be Patrick Mahomes overnight. Like, it takes time, but I feel like we're trying to build this offense that fits him. So, like the way you said it, I like the answer the way you said it, and it's coming from a guy who's a Jimmy guy too. So you feel that this is not even right to even just put back the veteran in. This kills the kid's confidence.
Mm-hmm. The only situation I can think of, and this is a friend of mine has pointed this out before, of that's ever really worked out, was Jeff Garcia when he started early, is that he looked completely lost, and then they pulled him, sat him for a month, put him back in, and he looked way better, and then parlayed that into a really solid next season. That's the only time I've ever seen it, but that's a very different scenario. This is you've pretty much sold the farm for Trey Lance. You are committed. The only reason Jimmy's there is because he came back on an affordable price, and
nobody wants him.
And well,
not because the injury value,
right?
And the cap space was too much. That's what I meant.
well, that and most players have to be able to pass a physical to even be traded. So when you're coming off a shoulder surgery, you're not going to be able to pass a physical. But there's the sorry, that totally lost my train of thought. This is embarrassing. But you have Jimmy there. I remember what I was trying to say is that every quarterback except for Hoyer, who was pulled because we already had a lost season, has gotten hurt. Like every quarterback for Kyle Shanahan has gotten hurt. We like to say that's just Jimmy. Well, it wasn't just Jimmy. Trey got hurt twice last year. Beathard got hurt when he was in there. Mullins got hurt when he was in there. Jimmy got hurt 14 times while he was in there. Kyle Shanahan has only had one year in his time here where he had a quarterback healthy throughout the entire year. So a backup quarterback to him is extremely valuable. Like that guy better be able to go in there and win some games. I mean, that was a big reason they went out and looked for another quarterback, was that, Jimmy, on top of some limitations, wasn't available and it cost 2 seasons because of not being available. You can't keep doing that. So, Jimmy's there for a very valid reason in Kyle's mind. Like he has needed a quality guy to come in and win games as a backup.
That's true. And that's been our biggest Achilles heels under Shanahan was the quarterback issue. Like as soon as our quarterback's injured, the season's a wrap. But when you look at this side, like Trey's gonna have to go through the process because I don't expect him to be I don't expect him to be like Justin Herbert or any other quarterbacks overnight. Like those guys just had the talent. They were just quick on the fly because they were put in similar, in better situations than most people. But the Niners are kind of expecting too much out of Trey. Trey's kind of a perfect example of what you look from Josh Allen. Josh Allen, it took him some time. His accuracy was a little off, the way he played, and he couldn't stay healthy in college also. So that was the most concerning part about his game. But as soon as you start watching more of Trey, there's something you can definitely coach on. It just takes I'm hoping that this is part of the process to where he gets the experience and he shakes off the struggles later in the season, and then maybe that's where we come as a hot team. That's what I'm hoping for. But that's what we got to do. We got to stick with this kid. So if we abandon that ship, then we're sinking. Plain simple.
Yeah, and we see a lot of the Josh Allen, Herbert, Mahomes comparisons, and they're also in different situations. They are on teams that are being built to throw the ball. Look at last night's game. Those teams threw like 66% of the time. They are throwing teams. We are not a passing team. We are a running team that would like to have an efficient passing game. If you look at Kyle Shanahan or his dad, Mike Shanahan, at their history as coordinators and running offenses, they love to run the ball. We think about them as being having sophisticated passing games because they're usually high scoring offenses, but they love to run the ball. If you even go back to 1994, I know we're going way back in time.
Yeah, way back in the days.
But Mike Shanahan was the offensive coordinator for the 49ers. Steve Young was there. He's got Hall of Famer Steve Young. Okay. The team was 18th in passing attempts in the league. They were 5th in rushing attempts. If you fast forward to 1997, Mike Shanahan, he's got John Elway, Hall of Fame quarterback in Denver. When they won the Super Bowl that year, they were 20th in pass attempts, 6th in rushing attempts. The next season, they won this. They had the number one offense in the league. We had the number one offense in 1994. In 1998, they won the Super Bowl, 21st in the league in passing attempts, 2nd in rushing attempts. You fast forward to 2005. Mike Shanahan is still in Denver. They went 13-3, had a really good year. They were 25th in passing attempts, 2nd in rushing attempts. You look at 2012 with the Redskins. They were the number I have it written down here. They were number 5 overall offense. They were 30th in pass attempts, 3rd in rushing attempts. When you look at the Falcons in 2013 and 2014, before Kyle Shanahan got there, they were 3rd in passing attempts in the league both years. They were 32nd and 27th in rushing attempts. In 2016, Kyle's there. They go to the Super Bowl. They were 27th in pass attempts, and they were 12th in rush attempts. He took a team that was built to throw the ball and made them a running team, and made them one of the fewest passing teams in the league. And then 2019, people look at 2019 and 2021 and say, well, that's because of Jimmy. We didn't throw the ball out. If you look at Shanahan's history, when he's winning, when he's got a winning team and a winning formula, he's running the ball and he's not airing it out very often. Hit both Mike and Kyle, because 2019, we were the 4th overall offense that year, and we were 29th in pass attempts. We were 7th in rushing attempts. 2021 is very similar. We were 29th in passing attempts, 6th in rushing attempts. That is a Shanahan offense. So what we're seeing going forward, when you see Trey, like what you saw on Sunday, that is the kind of offense that Kyle wants going forward, to run the ball. So when I see a lot of the comparisons of Trey, could be a Herbert, he could be Allen, I kind of want to take a step back and say, yeah, he's not going to be asked to be that. He's going to be asked to be a guy that runs an efficient passing offense, can hit the explosives, the shots when they're there at a high rate when we want to take them, but also to be able to add to the run game, because a Shanahan wants to run the ball. Like when his teams are winning, they run the ball at one of the highest rates in the NFL.
That's true. Like when you look at the overall, like the way you said it best, like this offense is built to run. And I've been getting this question from going on to Jack Hammer's show before, and the question was, "Are we going to be more of a pass team?" And I said, "Dude, I think we're going to still stay the same. It's just we're going to just have a quarterback who can move also, so that's the only difference." But yeah, I feel like this is exactly the way they built this team. They built this team to run the ball first and then throw every now and then. So yeah, you're right about it, because Trey, he's not going to ask to be he's not going to ask to do too much. He's not going to be asked to carry the team. But if I'm looking for a solid comparison to what his game can be like, I know this might sound a little weird and off, but Tannehill is very athletic. Tannehill he's a limit. He's been asked to not throw the ball as much, but when he gets the chance to, he looks pretty good. But before that, he was more of a game manager. And you look at the athleticism trays, but that's a little here and there. But we expect Trey to be a really good, solid game manager and move every now and then.
Yeah, what I see, what I want to see is like how Mike would he use Steve Young if Steve Young was in today's NFL. That if Mike could go, could take today's offense back to 1994, you would, and the zone read was something that was even in the NFL, you would have seen that all over the place, added to that offense in 1994. I think Steve Young would be the best comparison I can think of, because of how well he operated within a Mike Shanahan offense and that Shanahan offense in general. And I know that's going way back there for some people, because some people watching the 49ers weren't even alive the last time that Steve Young played. But I grew up watching Steve Young, and then also taking that to Denver and how John Elway did that. John Elway, I think, if you look at a young John Elway and you look at Trey Lance, that's where I really start seeing a lot of comparisons, because John Elway could move. John Elway was a guy who really was pretty mobile and could go, but he had a huge arm too. And Mike was able to kind of rein that in, because John Elway's biggest problem was that he was just a gunslinger who would just let it rip all the time and got his team in trouble. But, Mike made him a lot more efficient as far as being able to get a lot out of the offense with Elway. I think if you mix the big arm of Elway with the efficiency of Steve Young, that's what Kyle really hopes for with Trey Lance. A guy that when you're in third and six is going to be able to convert and keep the running game going, and then take advantage when you want to make those big chunk plays, when you want to hit those play actions. That was what he did in North Dakota State, was he ran a lot of play action passes. And so, that's what I see. I grew up watching T.O., not quite Steve Young. Yeah. But yeah, I think if Trey can get to that point, that's going to be where it's really exciting, because he doesn't have to be a top 5 passer, because he's not going to be asked to do that. He needs to be able to be a very good passer and add a lot to the run game. You do that, and this offense is going to be number 1, number 2 in the NFL.
Yeah, that's the point of what we're expecting. Like, we want him to play smarts, take care of himself. When you watch the way so when I grew up watching, I was growing up at the end of Steve Young's career. Like, Steven was at the end, and I was watching football during the 97 or 98, and that's when Steve Young was maybe having 1 or 2 good years in him before he retired. So it was like, I've seen the glimpse of what he was, and I'm hoping this is exactly what we're getting from Trey, because if that's what we're getting from Trey down the road, then I would take this any day of the week, man. I want Trey to be the modern day Steve Young, the guy I grew up watching, the guy that made me a fan to begin with, man. Steven was one of the great players that I would put in my number 1 list. Like, it's not even a question. Like, I know I didn't get a chance to watch Joe Montana, but I just I just fell in love with the game because of Steve Young.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, people forget. I mean, how good of a runner Steve Young was. The guy ran like a 4.5 40. He was a fast dude, and he can move. And the way Mike Shanahan would use him a lot was, because he ran a lot of that wide zone back in the 90s with Steve. But we would do a lot of those boots that you see, those bootleg passes that you see. Seen us run with Jimmy, with Mullins, with Trey, but he would also do a lot of naked boots where they would hand it off, and then it was just literally Steve rolling around the edge and taking off if the defense wasn't accounting for him as a runner, and he would go get 15, 20 yards. Those are the kinds of things that you hope to get from Trey is, okay, can you do that now? Because now they have to account for somebody on those runs, and then when they are accounting for him on those runs, and now they have to commit even more to the play side run, now you can start hitting all those play action passes off of it. That's the stuff that starts getting exciting, and you're seeing that we're this close, and the potential for just getting explosive after explosive in the run game.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. Like the running game is pretty much what makes this offense the bread and butter. But what gives Trey more of this is why we took the risk with taking our investment with Trey, because we know he can move. We know he's got the football intelligence. We know he's got the football habits. Like he's a film junkie from the looks of it. I feel like the more he gets the experience, the more it's gonna help him. In the long haul, you're just gonna expect the struggles early on, and that's just gonna be like what you expect from a quarterback that's young. Like Trey's gonna learn from it. Like he's already like taken accountability. What other quarterback can say that at the early stage? Some of them just take blames for certain stuff, but for him, he's taking the blame on himself and wanting to get better. He is looking to what he did wrong so he can fix it next time. And what I really like about Trey is like he's willing to put the extra effort, and that's something you can't coach. You either have the talent or you don't.
Absolutely. I think Jocko Willink talks about one of the keys to leadership is extreme ownership. That whenever a leader is in charge of something, and the quarterback is the leader of the offense, whether he wants to be or not, whether he's got a C on his chest or not, but it's about extreme ownership. And that's what we've seen from Trey, and what you like to see is that he takes extreme ownership over the failures of the offense, and you praise your teammates when it goes well, and you give them the credit, and you take extreme ownership when it doesn't. That's the mark of a good leader.
Yeah, and that's the difference between him and Jimmy. Jimmy doesn't seem to like really take the accountability. Like I can see the difference, but when you see the way Trey plays, he's just more mature. He's 22 years old. He just acts like he's like in his 30s or something. Like the way he acts.
Yeah, I mean, I just haven't seen enough to say one way or another on that. To me, that's just something that is going to be seen. You know,
Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that's just we just got to see more of his game a little bit, and that's where we got to go at. But do you feel this week is the week we're gonna definitely play a guy like Ty Davis Price and Danny Gray this week, or you think they're gonna still be inactive?
Danny Gray, I don't know about. Just I think there's the hope that with Danny Gray coming in and the speed that we're going to see the vertical passing game. To me, though, when you look at what Kyle Shanahan requires of his running back or his wide receivers, first and foremost, above being a great route runner, you got to be a great blocker. That the receivers are tasked with a lot in the run game and blocking, because there's clips of Mike McDaniels you can find when he was still with us, talking to some college coaches about the importance of the wide receivers blocking in the run game. He's like, at one point he goes, look, we can get 6 and 7 yard runs all day, but we don't want 6 and 7 yard ones. We want freaking 40 and 50 yard runs. And so they challenge he says, we challenge our receivers with that heart, and you don't see the field if you're not willing to block, and you can't block. And so, when I see a guy like Danny Gray, I go, okay, he's not seeing the field. To me, that says, is he executing the run game blocking that they want? Because, a great example would be the Bears game. We blew a touchdown because Juwan Jennings blew a block. I mean, that was a big play. Jeff Wilson had an opportunity for a touchdown. Instead, he's cut down for a 2-yard loss. That's on Juwan Jennings, a receiver. Okay, that receiver's tasked with a lot. There was a play that Debo has where, again, we had a chance for huge explosive play. Brandon Ayuk blows his block. Okay, receivers are tasked with crucial roles in our running game. So if he wants to see the field, he's got to be able to run block. If not, then what you're doing is you're telling the defense that you're passing, and that is not our MO. We are about the run game and the play action pass, so that you think we're going to run. We want you to think we're going to run when we're going to run, and we want you to think we're going to run when we're going to pass. Like, we want to run, and that's where it's around. So do I see Danny Gray in there? That comes down to how well he can run block now. As far as TDP, that's going to come down to what Kyle said about operating without the ball in your hands. So is he going to be able to execute the blocking scheme in the pass game? Because the fastest way to get yourself off the field as a running back is to get your quarterback killed by not picking up the blitz. We all saw that when quarterbacks, we like to think they're all protected, but they're, they still hurt when they get hit. We saw that with Herbert last night, right? Like he got hurt, and that hurts he got hit, and that hurts for real. You don't want your quarterback, your guy that you have hitched to, getting destroyed on a failed blitz pickup because your young running back doesn't know the playbook. So Kyle alluded to that early this week. He said, they asked him about who's going to play and what's going to play, and he said it comes down to how well they can perform when the ball's not in their hands.
Yeah, he takes a lot of the blocking seriously, so I guess that's the only way you see them go to the doghouse. If you don't block or do your job consistently, you're not going to see the field. So I guess it depends on how Danny Gray does in practice. It depends on how Ty Davis Price or Jordan Mason does. I mean, at some point you got to play these guys, but man, I guess that's what we value the most, because when we run the ball, we expect our wide receivers and tight ends and everybody doing their job by blocking. So it's like, blocking may not be the most popular thing to do, but when you got those holes open, the running back is running free, and you see that it goes from an 8-yard run to maybe a 60-yard touchdown run or something.
Yeah,
And that's the beauty.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not sexy to talk about. Like, let's just be honest, it isn't. It isn't sexy to sit there and go, well, Danny Gray needs to really be able to block that, get down and crack on that defensive end, so we can get a run. When you have a guy who's got blazing speed and you're thinking about the 70-yard bomb, that's not the sexy play, but that's Kyle. I mean, he would rather have a 60-yard touchdown run than a 60-yard pass. I mean, now I think he would take almost either one, but if it was one or the other, he wants to run the freaking ball, and because he knows that's a safer thing. When you run the ball, there's a lot of good things that can happen, from an explosive touchdown all the way, to 40-yard run, 30-yard run, 10-yard run, 5-yard run. 3-yard run is still not a horribly negative thing. When you go to try and drop back on a 7-step drop and do a deep ball pass, there's a lot of things that can go wrong and only a few things that can go right. So, when you're looking at that from Kyle's perspective, if we can run the ball, man, there's so few things that can go wrong and a lot of good things that can go right. But if we're trying to deep pass all the time, there's a lot of things that can go wrong and only a few things that can go right.
Yeah, that is right. Like, when you look at the difference, but when you see the running game, the problem with us is, we do run the ball more than passing, and it's kind of alarming that we had to deal with running back issues like injuries, and seeing how Elijah Mitchell got injured, man. Now we're putting our faith to Jeff Wilson, and potentially they're going to probably just throw in Debo in the mix because that's what they paid him to do. So I don't know what to expect, but what do you expect for this running game to be on Sunday? Do you expect more of Jeff Wilson, or do you think another running back will get some more of the carries at some point?
The hard part with going away from Jeff Wilson. So Jeff Wilson is a guy. He's not gonna break a bunch of tackles for you, but he's gonna run hard. He's gonna be decisive in the run game, and he has home run speed. So those are qualities that Shanahan really likes. And two, he is a really, really good blocker. I know it keeps coming back to this, but when you have him in the game and you can play him essentially as a fullback with Debo in there, that is such an advantage because now, I mean, when you come out and the defense is sitting there and they have coaches that are up in the booth and they say, okay, 11 personnel is coming on the field. They're telling the defensive coordinator this, which is one running back, one tight end, three wide receivers. That means they're going to have a defensive back in the game. Well, the drop off from Kyle Juszczyk to Jeff Wilson as a blocker is not that much. I mean, Jeff Wilson's like there were so many of Debo's big runs last year that were Jeff Wilson. Like he's getting out there and because man, he's a really good blocker. He blocks behind his pads. He keeps his feet set. Like he can go, and his open field blocking is just phenomenal. The way he would get down the field, pick up a safety or a corner, and that was the key block that turned it from a 20-yard run to a 50-yard run for a touchdown. So do you really like the idea of taking Jeff Wilson off the field if you have that advantage? Because now you're forcing the defense into a smaller personnel package, and you can run your exact same offense as if you had Juszczyk, a fullback in the game, Kittle, the tight end, and your running back. You can run the exact same offense, but you now have three receivers on the field that they have to account for. Because if they don't, well, now you just spread it out and pass it. Who are they going to? They have to be in zone because they can't run man. Because who are you going to put on that slot receiver? You're not going to put a linebacker on him. So the defense has to respect that personnel package. But you can run your whole run game with Debo in there with Jeff Wilson. So it comes back to who are you gonna put in there that you trust as much as Jeff Wilson to be as versatile. So while he may not be the sexy guy of he's gonna just be an Elijah Mitchell explosive in the run game, he adds so much value for what he allows the team to do with Debo. And we've all seen what we can do with Debo. How do you take him off the field? So that's the kind of question goes. So for me, I see a lot of that personnel package to really take advantage of the difficulties and strains that puts on a defense.
Yeah, you're right about what Jeff Wilson brings to the table. Like his pass blocking is pretty outstanding. Like he does his good job when it comes to the blocking. He's a good receiving back. I'll give him that. Like when you throw the ball in the backfield, he'll give you some of those chunk of yards. His runs and carries lately have declined, but I still think even when you need those tough yards, he might get the job done for you. But like you said, in those plays with Debo, he can give you those big runs from Debo by blocking well. And that's what Kyle Shanahan likes about Jeff Wilson is he's loyal. I mean, he's very consistent at what he does, and he can trust him. Like, you may not like the stats that he puts, but when it comes down to doing the blocks and catching a third down pass for a first down play, that's the beauty part of Jeff Wilson. Like, it can be third and short or third and long, and if he's in the backfield and you dump a pass to him, he gets you that first down right off the bat.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And that's what makes it so interesting. But as far as all that, man, I know we've been going on for a little bit more, but let's get on to like a prediction, and then we can end on a high note, man. I know you got some stuff to do pretty soon.
It's all good, man.
It's all good, man. So as far as your prediction, what do you got this game going into? Do you see it as a low score, high score game, or how do you see it, man?
I see it as a game. I struggle seeing the Seahawks scoring more than 13 points. I don't. The only way that they score more than 13 points is if we have an injury on defense, and we struggle matching up somewhere. I think that a key matchup in the game, since we're no longer switching corners, back and forth, is one matchup that Seattle has always really tried to use is Metcalf on Mosley. They like that matchup, and they've gotten some wins there in the past. So that's going to be a key matchup in this game. They're going to put Metcalf on Mosley, and they're going to challenge him a number of times. So how well does Mosley stand up in those situations? If he holds up decently well, I don't see him scoring more than 13 points. And on offense, if we run our offense the way we can run our offense, we should score at least 24. To me, I see it like a 24-13 win. I don't know if it's going to be a full 2 touchdown spread. But that's kind of the neighborhood. If we do that, I will be as pleased as me, because I hate the Seahawks. I hate the Seahawks.
Oh yeah, dude. It's the feeling's mutual. I don't know, like as much as everybody hates Seattle and their own fan base, I just hate the team with the star. I don't like the Cowboys, and I never will. But
No.
The Rams are kind of giving me that little dislike a little bit. Like, okay, you guys got your moment. You got over the hump. Now y'all acting like a bunch of dynasty teams. Like the Rams are who we are, bro. I mean, I would put the Rams a little bit above Seattle if I'm being honest, because they do have some bragging rights now because they got two rings. But
Yeah, and I guess for Seattle, I used to live in the Seattle area for a long time, and I lived in Olympia, Washington, which is just 60 miles south. I've been to a number of games at their field, and I was surrounded by the 12s, and I will tell you, there cannot be any more annoying fans in the world than those Seahawks. I mean, I've never seen a fan base act like they just won the Super Bowl every time a team gets a false start in their stadium, and just like now I will give them credit. I've been in that stadium, and it is just ungodly loud. I remember the last time I was there, I had a headache by the third quarter. It was so loud constantly. But those fans will just they're some of the most. I think the biggest reason for me is they were nothing before Mike Holmgren got there. I mean, they were garbage for so long, and so whereas somebody who I was a 49ers fan since I was 5 years old, 4 years old. I got pictures of me when wearing 49ers stuff when I was pretty much almost in diapers. Like as young as I can be, and so many of these fans, for them, didn't come on until they started winning under Holmgren. And it was like, dude, shut up. Like I was in college, and they'd been good for a few years, and all of a sudden there was all these Seahawks fans. I was like, dude, shut up. You haven't even been following your team until they started winning. And so a lot of the fans have that kind of mentality there, and God, they just drive me nuts.
so
Sorry for
you,
the tangent.
oh yeah, it's all good, man. So you were born in the state of Washington?
I was born in the state of Oregon.
Well, okay, so that's kind of like in between the Seahawks territory.
Yeah, and I grew up outside the Portland area, and so that was the other thing too, is because during the most of the 90s, we in Oregon, we got 49ers games. We didn't get Seahawks games. It wasn't until the late 90s all of a sudden they started winning with Holmgren, and all of a sudden now it was like 99 through the early 2000s that all of a sudden you mostly got Seahawks games. But then I went to college outside Seattle and then lived there for a little while. Now I live in the great state of Alabama. So I went way away from there.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, I mean, growing up in California, like I was born in the state of Texas, but I just always had to deal with a lot of Dallas fans, Raider fans, and a different perspective. But the one that gets the most annoying is those Rams fans. Like, it's like when you see these Rams fans come out, it's like a reunion. It's like you haven't seen these guys since they were kids, or like, hey, what's going on? How you guys doing? But now they're coming off like they're the shit. And then what's even crazy is you see a lot of these Rams coming into the comments and talking all that shit and saying, well, your 5 rings don't count. So we got 2. The last, I'm like, dude, then why? Like, they're calling themselves the dynasty. I'm like, dude, y'all ain't no dynasty. Like, seriously, bro, that is super delusional. And some Seattle fans are kind of like starting to agree with me with these Rams fans.
Oh yeah, I mean they they tasted a little success, and they think now that they're the toast of the NFL, and it's like, well, yeah, your first ring came when your team was in St. Louis, but okay, uh, I didn't see you rooting for them when they were in St. Louis. Now they're back in California, you're like, yeah, that's my team.
Join the family, join the fan base.
Yet they can't fill their own stadium with their own fans.
Dude, they're trying to recruit a lot of Raider fans from LA, from what I was told. And they even paid them to be in the Super Bowl parade. So I don't want to hear all this, oh, that's bogus. Well, dude, how else do they fill up the parade, bro? They don't have they still got to take a while to build back the loyalty. Like, I'll give credit where it's due with those fans. I mean, you got your old school fans that been with this team and actually supported them when they were moving to St. Louis. But the rest of them, I don't even know who the hell they are. Like, seriously,
Yeah.
like, it's hard. But I respect some of these other content creators I work with, and they tell me what made them a fan of the team, and I'll go from there. And I don't judge fanhood or anything like that. But hey, if you've been rocking with this team long before their success, then hey, more power to you. But if you're just one of those guys that just jumps on the wagon and acts like you've been a fan your whole life and you don't know nothing about your team history, then don't even talk your crap about my team. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, and if you haven't walked through some dark ages with your team, you don't have room to talk. When another team's down. If you wouldn't stick with your own team when they were down, then you don't have room to talk. If you've been through the thick and the thin and the good, the bad, over the last 30 years, I'm 37, so I've seen the highest of highs and the lowest of lows with the 49ers. And so when we're good, we earned that right to talk.
Yeah. And the fact that just want to discredit our past rings, dude, last I checked, we still have the 5. So what's the change up? Like, dude, you still need to catch up. When they keep thinking we're going, dude, I'm like saying, dude, okay, if our rings are so old, then what's taking so long? What's taking so long? I don't see you guys getting close to us.
Right. And it's like, I'll wager a bet of who gets to 7 first.
Yeah, you're right, man. But hey, man, it was a blast, bro. We had a good chit chat. Maybe down the road we'll definitely get you back on the show, or maybe you can get me on your show one day, man. But hey, man, tell everybody where they can find you, man. And it's definitely a blessing. We got this Sunday coming up against Seattle, man. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. Again, on YouTube at Jonnydel's Football Academy. You can check it out. I released about 11 p.m. Central Time, would be 9 p.m. Pacific Time, released a breakdown video from the Bears. Yesterday, released a podcast with John Chapman. It was great to have him on. Now I'm on this podcast today. It's been fun making the rounds, but you can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter at Jonnydels. Or Jonnydel's FA. That's for Jonnydel's Football Academy, and it's spelled like you see it here on the screen with no H, and that's where I reside.
Yeah, man. Hey, if you guys ain't subbed to Jonnydell's Football Academy, then y'all missing out something, man. A great breakdown film guy, a guy that works well with this Niners community, man. Go check out him and John Chapman also, man. I'm telling you, this is a great group of Niners community over here, man. We're just working as a team. We got our own thing going on. But, man, definitely looking forward to it, man. Hopefully we catch up sometime soon. But as always, CG Ruthless and Jonnydell's Football Academy is out, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.